So today, we're diving into some fascinating topics around digital privacy and security. We'll start by breaking down how GrapheneOS helps prevent digital tracking with its key features. Then move on to legal strategies for personal disappearance that folks can use without breaking the law. And finally, we'll discuss the privacy risks tied to modern smartphones and data brokers under U.S. laws. It's all based on solid sources, like the Cape blog and official GrapheneOS info. So let's get into it and see what this means for everyday life. It's eye-opening how much control we can reclaim if we play it smart.
Wait, that sounds super intriguing. Sam, I'm curious how GrapheneOS actually stacks up against regular Android for tracking prevention. I've heard bits about it, but let's dig in deeper because with all the apps we use daily, it's hard to imagine cutting out the big tech spies. So, from what you've read in those sources, like the Cape blog, what are the main ways it protects your privacy? That could be a game changer for people worried about their data being followed everywhere.
Absolutely, Jordan. And yeah, that's a great question to kick us off. From the Cape blog and other GrapheneOS resources, one key feature is per-connection MAC randomization, which basically scrambles your device's identifier so networks can't easily track you across different connections. Let me think about how to explain this simply. It's like changing your license plate every time you drive on a new road, making it tough for anyone to follow your path. Additionally, GrapheneOS includes privacy tools like storage, scopes, and sensors toggle, which let you control what apps can access, so you're not constantly leaking data without knowing it. And that's drawn from discussions on Reddit and the official GrapheneOS site.
Oh, that's actually really interesting, Sam. I never thought about MAC addresses in that way. Like it's this hidden tracker we don't even notice. But wait, hold on. Does that mean if I switch to GrapheneOS, I can still use mainstream apps without them phoning home to Google all the time? From what I recall in that discuss.grapheneos.org thread, it sounds like they sandbox apps to limit data sharing, which is wild because most phones just let everything flow freely. So, how does this play out in real life? Does it make a noticeable difference in avoiding digital footprints?
Exactly, Jordan. And you're spot on with that sandboxing idea from the GrapheneOS discussions. It isolates apps so they can't freely access your personal info or track you without permission. For instance, you can use apps like Signal for secure messaging, as mentioned in that Medium article, without worrying as much about broader surveillance. What makes it even more effective is how it cuts out default Google services, so you're not automatically feeding data into that ecosystem. And that's backed by the YouTube overview and Substack comparisons. Overall, it's a solid step for preventing digital tracking, though it does require some setup to get right.
That's fascinating. And it makes me wonder if this is enough for someone wanting to fully disappear offline. Like the strategies in that Newstrail guide. From Source 10, it talks about legal ways to start over without committing crimes, such as consulting a lawyer for privacy matters. Wait, seriously? How do people even begin with that? Scheduling a meeting with an expert, as in the My Data Removal blog, sounds straightforward, but what are the key steps they recommend to avoid being tracked while rebuilding your life?
Right, Jordan. And that's a natural follow-up since we've been talking about digital privacy. Let's shift to those legal strategies for personal disappearance. Based on the Newstrail article and the My Data Removal Guide, the first big step is to consult with a lawyer experienced in privacy or identity matters, so you understand the legal boundaries, like not violating any laws while changing your situation. For example, experts like Frank Ahern, as mentioned in that Queen Zone piece, emphasize planning carefully to drop off the grid safely, which might involve managing your online presence without illegal actions. Oh, and it's all about doing this effectively in 2025's connected world, drawing from those sources to ensure you're protected under U.S. guidelines.
Wait, that's wild. I didn't realize there were actual experts like Alec Harris from HavenX offering tips on this, as per source 15, without it turning into something shady. So if we're sticking to what's in the sources, it's more about legal identity management than, say, faking documents or anything. But hold on, how does this tie into everyday stuff, like avoiding surveillance in a practical way? I guess the key is understanding US privacy laws, like the ones from the GAO report, to make sure you're not accidentally tripping over regulations while trying to vanish.
You're right on the money there, Jordan. And yeah, it's crucial to reference those US privacy laws from the GAO and EPIC resources to keep everything above board. For instance, the Privacy Act of 1974, as outlined in Source 9, governs how personal information is handled by the government, which could inform your strategy for minimizing exposure. Let me think. In the context of disappearing, sources like Thomson Reuters' Guide on the Right to be Forgotten emphasize erasing private info from cyberspace in the US, so you might focus on removing data legally rather than evading entirely. That way, it's a thoughtful process, not a reckless one, based on what's actually advised.
Oh, that's actually really helpful, and it leads perfectly into our next part, because if GrapheneOS is about digital protection, these disappearance strategies highlight the broader risks. From Source 5, modern smartphones are like privacy nightmares, logging everything from your location to your apps, which feeds into data brokers. Wait, no way. So how do these brokers use that info? And what does it mean under US laws like the ones in Source 13? I'm skeptical that just switching OSs fixes everything, but let's break it down.
Exactly, Jordan. And your skepticism is valid. Smartphones today, as per that CyberLife Coach Substack, are designed to track and share data extensively, making them a major risk for privacy. Under U.S. laws like the Privacy Act from Source 13, there's protection for personal records, but data brokers can still compile and use info in ways that aren't fully regulated, leading to potential exposure. For example, if your phone is syncing data without your full awareness, it could end up in databases that track habits, so GrapheneO steps in by limiting those permissions, as we discussed earlier. That's why combining tech, like GrapheneOS, with legal knowledge from sources 11 and 14 is key to mitigating these risks.
That's genuinely eye-opening, Sam. I mean, it's scary how interconnected everything is. And hearing about the right to be forgotten from Thomson Reuters makes me think we need more awareness. So to wrap this up, what are the big takeaways from all this? Like, for listeners wanting to boost their privacy, should they start with GrapheneOS or focus on legal strategies first? Oh, and that's actually amusing in a way, how something as simple as an OS can feel like a secret weapon against big tech.
Well, Jordan, to sum it up, we've covered how GrapheneOS offers real tools for preventing digital tracking through features like MAC randomization and app sandboxing, based on our sources. Then, for personal disappearance, the key is leaning on legal experts and U.S. privacy laws to handle it safely, without inventing risky shortcuts. And finally, the privacy risks from smartphones underscore why we all need to be vigilant with data brokers, using resources like GAO reports as guides. Overall, it's about empowering yourself with knowledge. So listeners, check out those links and start small. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, that's a solid wrap-up, Sam. And I have to say, this conversation has me rethinking my own phone setup. It's wild how much we've uncovered today, from GrapheneOS's defenses to those legal disappearance tactics. Let's definitely dive deeper into this stuff in future episodes, as it's more relevant than ever. Thanks everyone for tuning in.